Well, good afternoon, Holy Trinity. This is Pastor Daniel checking in with you once again for yet another video update. In today's video update, I have some rather exciting news on two different announcements. The first announcement involves the final tally for our Easter season giving. Now, may I remind you that our goal, our total, was $4,500. And I get to announce today that we were able to raise just over $5,000 in the funds for the Easter season giving. So in this last little bit of giving, since my last announcement and Pentecost Sunday, we had some great donations come in. And we were able to not only meet our goal, but exceed our goal. So I just give thanks and praise for each and every one of you who contributed and helped us raise these funds. I just give thanks and praise to God for honoring our efforts and assisting us in raising these funds. And I'm just excited to be able to announce that we were able to close that item in our budget. And we were able to successfully raise these funds and continue to put Holy Trinity in a good financial position, even amidst all of the downturn because of COVID-19. So thank you very much for every single person that gave. We appreciate it. We appreciate your giving, and we appreciate your faithfulness to this ask here at Holy Trinity during this time. The second announcement that I have for everyone is about reopening for in-person worship. That is a conversation that has been kicked up since starting last Sunday, Pentecost Sunday. Several of our local other Episcopal churches began to reopen for worship. And then the question began, well, when are we going to reopen for worship? I had a meeting with the vestry a couple nights ago. And at that meeting, we made the decision that Holy Trinity would reopen for worship on June the 28th. So that is Sunday, June 28th, will be our first Sunday where we will gather again for in-person worship. Now, there are a couple of caveats that everyone needs to understand in regards to our June 28th date. Number one, a lot of people may be wondering, why so far out? Why wouldn't we gather sooner for worship? Why do we have to wait all the way until June 28th? Well, one of the requirements that I personally set forth for gathering for worship in person was to ensure that we had a live stream option, so that those who were not comfortable coming to church, being out in public, for whatever reason, they would still be able to join our worship services at home. Currently, there is no internet in the main church building. And I discovered this about a month or so ago. Well, I was working on a project, and it was something that I wasn't even aware of, that we didn't have internet in that building. And so we began to do some research. We began to look towards our IT company that we contract with to see if they could give us a bid so that we could improve not only the internet in the church, but the internet campus-wide, to improve our Wi-Fi system, to improve our network, and to get internet over in the church building, both hardwire and Wi-Fi internet. And we began working on that particular project. We are still amidst the approval process to getting that work approved and getting on the IT company's calendar for them to come out and do the actual work. And because of all of that, we decided to set the date out for regathering for worship to June 28th, because we wanted to make sure that when we did finally gather, that we had internet in the church building so that we could offer even a very basic live stream, so that those who wish to stay home during this time, and rightfully so, many should stay home during this time, that they would be able to still join us and be able to view and watch the worship service through a live stream at their homes. That was important to me, and so that's one of the reasons why the date is set out where it is because we simply need time to make sure that we can update our internet and get that project completed so that we can offer a live stream version of our church service on June 28th. The second caveat that I want everyone to be aware of is that when we do gather for worship, those who do come to the church and gather for worship, I need everybody to understand that it is going to look very different. A lot of the research still shows that gathering in a church service, because you're sitting, you're stationary, you're static in the same place for 45 minutes to an hour, recirculating the same air that everyone else is breathing around you, is still one of the more risky things one can do in regards to catching infection and things that might be around you and your neighbors. So what we're going to have is a rather strict list of changes and protocols that we're going to have to put in place for those who do come to worship. I'm not going to go over all of those protocols at this time because some of them might be subject to change between now and the 28th. But just know that in the coming weeks, we'll begin to outline the various protocols that we're going to put in place for those who do come to in-person worship. But we do want everyone to understand at the onset that it is going to look and feel very different than a normal service at Holy Trinity, until we can get to a place where, from a health perspective, it's safe enough to re-engage in some of our older, more communal practices for worship. But the final note that I want to make about this, and arguably the most important note, is that we really want everyone to exercise their own choice in coming to worship. I think that was one of the things that the vestry and myself was taking primarily into consideration when we decided to open for worship. We realize that not everyone will be in agreement with this decision. There are those that still think that we need to not gather for worship to protect the health of those around us. On the flip side of that, there were people who began to voice their concern that we were not gathering for worship, and that they wanted worship to be available to the community, and that the people should be able to decide for themselves if they wish to come. Ultimately, the vestry ended up taking that position. We decided that what we would do is, for those who want to come to worship and those who are willing to come to worship, that we would make that option available. But having said that, we do not want anyone to feel like they are obligated to come to worship if they do not feel that it is appropriate for them at this time with all of the health concerns around us. That was why it was very important that we have a live stream option available, so that there was no pressure to have to come to church, that you would still be able to worship at home for those that desire to worship at home, and also those who really desire to come to the church and worship, that option would be made available to them as well. And we're really encouraging everyone to exercise their own choices and their own discernment at this time on whether or not it's appropriate for them and or their family to come to church and worship in person, or if they should stay home and worship through the live stream option. So we want to make that very clear that that is what we are encouraging people to do, to make the decision that is best for them personally at this time. And we will continue to make both the live stream and the in-person worship opportunities available for those that would like to partake in either one of those. So that's the announcement for today. The The big announcement being that that in-person worship will restart on June the 28th. But more details will come in the future. So please stay tuned to your email system. Stay tuned to the website as we put out new information as it becomes available of what the in-person worship is going to look like and what the protocols are going to be for the in-person worship. One final quick announcement. Next week there will be no video update as I will be out of town. So there will not be a video update next week, but there will be one the following week. And that is likely when we're going to outline all of the protocols for the in-person worship. So as I have grown accustomed to saying, until we are allowed to see each other again, which now we know is coming up soon, just know that my thoughts and prayers are with each and every one of you, and may God's blessings be upon us all. Bye-bye now.